I'm not going to start with any easy questions.
What would you do if you couldn't fail?
I was vulnerable in the sense of I was just who I was.
The cold exposure conditions the inside of our body to literally adapt.
Whatever happens in the gut happens in the brain, and whatever happens in the brain happens in the gut.
Finding the grace and the humor.
Anti-aging is associated with at least an hour of deep sleep nightly.
Absolutely had mentors, absolutely 100% had coaches.
90+% of the decisions that we make today actually stem from fear.
Allow ourselves to have imperfection.
Nothing starts without a plan, nothing ever goes to plan.
Chaga is actually the most antioxidant rich food on the planet.
If we can bring a practice into our lives that helps us be more vulnerable. I'm so thrilled that this content is getting out there, that you guys are promoting bold and vulnerable message and aspirations for people, because I hope that we can all really live that every day.
Hey, this is Jessica.
And Svetlana, and you're listening to the Bold and Vulnerable podcast,
where we aim to inspire others to live authentically through sharing the bold and vulnerable stories of peak performers across a variety of industries.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Bold and Vulnerable podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining us and for being such avid listeners. And today we are doing another segment on your co-hosts per request. And I am going to be interviewing Jess, my co-host today, and biz bestie. And I want to talk to her about all things health, fitness, her routine, her lifestyle, because if you guys have seen Jess, she's pretty fucking fit. And she looks amazing, and she's a very active person, and she eats really well. So I just want to dive right into let's get into this, Jess. So let's just start with, my question is, because we know that you're a vegan. Well, for those of you that don't know, now you do. So Jess is vegan, and Jess has changed her lifestyle into a vegan, plant-based lifestyle, the last a few years ago, right?
Yeah, it was 2016 when I officially went vegan, and well, first, thank you for saying that I'm fit. That is a huge compliment. I'm like always working on health and fitness and awareness of just optimal performance, not even just the way you look, but the way that you feel inside too. So thank you for mentioning that. But yeah, so it was 2016 when I made the switch to being whole food plant-based, and I never looked back.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little more about that? Was it what sort of prompted that decision? Was it a strictly just for, yourself, for lifestyle, or was it an ethical decision, or both? Tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was living in San Francisco at the time, downtown San Francisco, and I had been in California for about a year and a half. And at that point, I was healthy. I was eating not a ton of meat, mostly just fish, and I was kind of like pseudo healthy, right? Vegetarian-ish, but I had fish and sometimes had meat when I went out to eat. But it was really a lifestyle change that happened overnight, which I know it doesn't happen to a lot of people, or maybe it does, but for me, it was this instant click. And actually, Svetlana, it's weird because our journey of meeting each other was right around the time that I switched to a whole food plant-based diet, because I switched overnight after the 4-day Unleash the Power Within seminar with Tony Robbins. And he spent a whole day, I forget which day it was, the third or the fourth day, talking about health. And not only did I take into consideration everything that he was saying, but one of my best friends in the world who lives in North Carolina had gone vegan a while ago, and I kind of just like brushed her off. She kept telling me all of the health benefits, and she was a huge fan of, and still is a huge fan of, Dr. Colin Campbell and the China study. And so she had kind of been preaching to me for a while, but it really was that conference, that 4-day conference, where I went to change my life. I went there and really had specific career goals, business goals, not only professional goals, but fitness, health goals, wellness goals. I wanted to be this person that's not only starting a business, but I needed to walk the walk instead of just talking the talk. So literally overnight, I switched to a whole food plant-based diet, which is kind of crazy. I went cold turkey.
Wow.
And the day before, I was like downing literally eggs every single morning. I had an egg like sandwich type of a thing, and I lived with people in San Francisco, so you can ask them if you need the proof. But yeah, my 2 guy roommates were like, "What are you doing?" Because I would wake up every single morning after that conference, and I was taking wheatgrass shots, and my diet just completely changed overnight. And that was really it. I made a decision, and that was it. Never looked back.
Wow. That's amazing. Wow. I mean, I have so many questions. Well, first of all, how did you feel? After, like, because you just went cold turkey really fast. And I know that since you're already you've already been a pretty healthy person, and I know that you've always been pretty active and fit pretty much your whole life. But diet-wise, I don't really know. How have you always been a super conscious eater, or was it an easy transition? Was it difficult? Let us know.
Yeah, that's a great question. I've always been somewhat healthy, but I wouldn't say that I was healthy in my childhood growing up, and I definitely wouldn't say I was healthy in college. I didn't know any better. I think I ate what was given to me when I was growing up, and most of the time my mom would cook for us, but sometimes it would be processed food, chicken, things like that, and that's something that I didn't even know. I was just a kid at the time. Going to college, it was kind of more a financial thing, right? Like, what can you afford? What are you buying? And you living in the dorm room, or living in a house. I lived in a house with a bunch of cheerleaders, and I mean, we were eating healthy, but not as healthy as we could have been. And so yeah, I was health conscious, but really not until I got into a professional career and really kind of like mid-20s, I got a little bit more health conscious. Before that, I was not eating properly. I was probably drinking way too much alcohol, enjoying my 20s, as anyone else does. But, really made the shift when I was in San Francisco, and I think I was 27 or 28 at the time. And my shift was completely for health reasons. So in contrast to my best friend who's been preaching veganism and really had these reasons that were more for, animal rights and things like that. My reason at first for going completely whole foods plant-based was for optimal peak performance and health. Whereas, over the past 4 or 5 years that I've been whole food plant-based vegan, it's really turned into more of an environmental, ethical, and climate as well as health benefit to live the lifestyle I'm living. So I think that really it's been kind of this process and this morph into health and wellness and getting into that community. And at the same time, I was really putting myself in the position where I was surrounding myself with people that were more health conscious. So I ended up getting my yoga certification around that same time. And so really kind of surrounding myself with people that were and still are embedded into the fitness community. So that really helped me to kind of make the shift. But also, I will say San Francisco is a very easy place to switch to whole food plant-based because there are so many options. So I will say that it was helpful to be in that area.
Yeah, definitely. There's like San Francisco is like a melting pot of amazing restaurants that are just so delicious. So definitely grateful to live here for that reason. But it's interesting, what you said about how initially it was for optimal peak performance, and then it turned into a more of an ethical stance. And I feel that I hear that a lot from people, where it sort of turns into like, I'm not feeling really well. I'm eating, a ton of carbs and meat, and you're super inflamed, and you're not feeling like you have a ton of energy, and as soon as you make the switch you start to feel better. And I feel like from my experience, when I made a switch a few years ago, like I went to when I went to junior college, I went to Skyline, and I remember we had to watch this video on how the animals are treated, right? And I remember after that, I could not eat meat for like months. I was just like, I can't do this. This is like disgusting. This feels so wrong, you know? And I feel like I've been like going back and forth, right? So I don't eat a lot of meat, but I do eat meat. I'm very conscious of it. But it's just, I just thought it was interesting how like it's so different for different people, where it's like either it's for peak performance first and then it turns into an ethical thing, or vice versa. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to be clear too, I live a whole food plant-based diet, which acronym is WFPB, which you'll see like sometimes on social media, people plug that on their profile, but that's my diet, which for people out there that don't know the difference between, hey, I'm vegan versus whole food plant-based, because there is a difference.
Yeah.
Whole food plant-based combines a plant-based diet with a whole foods diet. So it's avoiding processed foods, avoiding added sugar, avoiding artificial sweeteners, refined grains, hydrogenated oils. So a plant-based diet sounds like it would be inherently healthy, but it's not always the case. When people say, hey, I'm vegan, they might be eating, vegan processed food, like Svetlana, you and I were talking about with Jay the other week on our episode. But yeah, vegan fast food isn't always healthy, but it is plant-based. So for me, it was whole foods, plant-based, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, any type of protein that I could add into my lifestyle to make the right nutritionally sound choices for peak performance. So really, my whole shift into veganism was a whole food plant-based diet from the get-go. And that really, you asked me earlier how I felt or how I'm feeling. And it's really been all about optimizing health and performance for me. So not having brain fog, not being tired all the time, inflammation in joints, things like that have really changed for me. And I'm not knocking any other type of lifestyle. If keto works for you, that's awesome. If, eating meat works for you, that's amazing as well. I think the only standpoint I have there is just, hey, like, how can we be more environmentally ethical and environmentally conscious for climate reasons, but to each their own. I don't sit there on social media and force people into a certain diet. I'm just kind of doing my thing because that's what I believe in.
Totally. And thank you for touching on the differences, because I think that's super important for people to understand that becoming vegan or vegan whole food plant-based is actually basically the real way of switching to a vegan, of switching to that sort of lifestyle versus, hey, now I'm vegan, but I eat a shit ton of processed foods that are really bad for me.
Yeah.
And I still feel like shit. And I drink smoothies every now and then. And like, really, it's just, that's not real food. You're actually, that's why a lot of people end up being unhealthy. And also, of course, for other reasons, because there's other things going on, right? Like, maybe like, for example, George and I are big on eating for your blood type, and it's really interesting because we're both B positive, and a lot of the things that the book talks about for B positive blood types is staying away from poultry and pork, and I've intuitively done that for years now because I just would feel sick from it. I never felt good eating poultry or pork, and I stay away from it. Like, the only type of meat that I still eat is beef or bison, and I try to go more for bison because it's cleaner. It's a cleaner alternative, and we just are always looking for foods that are ethically raised. Like, I won't buy a disgusting Foster Farms meat or like anything that's like mass produced. And we usually have I have this like ritual that I like to go by. Sometimes I forget, right? I'm human, but I really like to thank the animal for its sacrifice. And it's funny because we watched Avatar recently, and in one of the scenes, the guy is like saying, "Thank you, brother, for your sacrifice," when they're killing the animal. And I was like, oh wow, like the indigenous peoples, how sweet they were to the animals, how indigenous people function, how they are with animals, and how they're just much more kind and loving versus like the way that, like what you're talking about, what you said, from an ethical standpoint and climate, how animals are being treated nowadays is just not okay. The mass production.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, and there was something else there. You also touched on something else. Oh, that you don't knock on anybody for their choices, which I love and admire about you, because shaming somebody into making a change never works.
Yeah. And that's how I felt too, with my friend who was vegan. I wasn't really listening to her all the way because I was kind of set in my ways a little bit, from the Northeast, like, no, I'm good. I got this, like early 20s, living in North Carolina, vegan food wasn't really necessarily all that available. And I just didn't really understand exactly what the heck she was talking about. And I just kind of turned away from it. And I've really realized that on my own because I want to make sure that I'm sensitive to that. And that doesn't make anyone change. You're going to change for your own reasons and you're going to change in your own way. And it took me really wanting to change my own life to realize that that's the diet that I wanted to try. And I say try because I tried it and it worked for me. So if I had tried that and I didn't feel better, I didn't feel like I was living at a peak performance state, then I probably would have stopped and tried something else. However, for me, it really did work. And then, on top of that, like rolling through all these Netflix documentaries coming out, all these other things that started coming out that were affecting my decision and almost like reinforcing it. And all of the studies, I read the book, The China Study, and then I read Whole by Dr. Campbell, who is amazing and very smart. And all those books are very data driven. And so for me, it was like, hey, here are the numbers. You can't deny these numbers. You can't deny looking at diseases and illnesses that we suffer from as a society that are preventable and they're fatal illnesses. So many personal and planetary problems can be solved by making more mindful food choices. And again, like you said, it was something that I don't shame other people. I'm doing it for my own reasons. I hope that people come to it on their own and find it. But if they don't, that's okay. But I do understand the stances that are the extreme, right? Like I understand.
Well, what I love about you, sorry to interrupt, but what I love about you is that you lead by example. So that's the way to influence people. And that's the way to, that's true leadership because you're leading by example. You're not forcing, you're not yelling at anyone, you're not shoving stuff in their face. You're just living your life. And if people are inspired and they feel inspired by you, then they follow.
Yeah, that's a good point. And thanks for saying that and noticing and mentioning. But I've always felt that way, whether it's with health, fitness, career, professional life, like every part of my life, I want to lead by example because I know that everyone's your teacher, right? You can't force somebody to do something. You have to take in the information and process it in your own way and then make your own decisions. But yeah, I understand where people on the extreme side, like Greta Thunberg, are on these stances. I completely understand those stances and I support them, but I also understand where other people are coming from. Yeah. So I think it's really, do your own research on what works for your body. Like you mentioned, you and George work for your blood type and follow diets that support your blood type. I think that's awesome. Like if you go to a doctor and you can get the tests done that are appropriate to give you the data to say, hey, this is the best diet for you, or hey, you might have some allergies here. I love that. I think that that's amazing. And there's so many benefits to eating for your body because it's not one size fits all. But, in my case, whole foods plant-based works for me. It's helped me with a number of things. I think primarily it has to do with lowering my body mass index, lowering rates of obesity, diabetes, heart disease, diabetes prevention and treatment. So lowering risk of type 2 diabetes and all of these things following this vegan diet have really been ingrained into me, especially because, and getting a little bit vulnerable here on our show, my dad actually suffered from a heart attack. So for me, that running in my family and heart disease, cardiovascular health being at the forefront of my mind, just in terms of how healthy can I be, that really shifted me as well. But it didn't make me change. It didn't make me, him having a heart attack, it didn't make me change my diet, unfortunately. But that's just one of the things that I thought about when I was making that change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes the huge things, like these huge events, are not always what create the change. It can just happen overnight, like the way you said. It doesn't have
Mhm.
to be some big bang where we talked about this before. All the lights go off like a movie scene, and all of a sudden it's like, yes, I've changed. Like that's it. It's just like, you know what? Like you just make a decision, that's it, and you just stick to it.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, um, I think that like you touched on this, just eating like for what makes you feel good. I feel like a big part of that is like conscious eating, and I feel like the way that I eat is it's like I tune in. It's like, does this make me feel good or does this make me feel bad? And then I just tune in with my body and like I see how I feel. If I feel fatigued, then I'm like, okay, I don't feel good. And that's how I felt with poultry for a long time. Before, when I ate it, it was like, I don't feel good eating this. I don't want to eat this. So
Yeah.
yeah. But I want to touch on intermittent fasting too, because I know that you do that as well, and I love intermittent fasting. Can you talk about that? Like how do do you do it all the time? Like what have been some of the health benefits for you?
Yeah. Number one, I'm not an expert on fasting, and definitely if anyone's out there wanting to try fasting, definitely talk to a professional, doctor, whoever it is in your life, coach, mentor on fasting. This is just my specific routine. So, not expecting anyone to follow in these footsteps, but I've had success with a 16/8 intermittent fasting, which involves eating during an 8-hour window and then fasting for those remaining 16 hours. So it's pretty simple for me because 8 of those 16 hours or more, like, 9, I'm sleeping or getting ready for bed, right? Because I have a nice sleep cycle. So I've found that it's supported everything from brain function and inflammation and concentration. Yeah, it's just helped me gain a little bit more control over when I'm hungry and when my body is craving that food. And I think a lot of people try intermittent fasting to get into ketosis, right?
Yeah.
Because they want to feel that feeling of longevity. There's been a lot of research on your body going into ketosis and creating mitochondria and everything that's good for your body. But I'm not religious about intermittent fasting. I don't beat myself up if there's one day out of the month where I'm like, shoot, I had to do something late at night and I'm eating a little bit later. I don't beat myself up over it, but it does make me feel really great when I am on that consistent 16/8. And it's not super difficult. I'm eating a healthy diet anyway. Just during that period of time where I'm quote unquote fasting, I'll just drink water. I drink coffee during that time. So, there is liquid going into my body. So I don't know if people would disqualify that as not fasting at all, but I'm not eating any solids during that time. And it's helped me feel a little bit better. And, there's more and more coming out about the benefits of fasting. So we don't really know too much as a society yet how this works, but we do know that in cultures dating thousands of
I was
years
about to say,
back, that people fasted, and it was more so a religious thing, but also something that created longevity and created really wonderful digestive systems for those folks. So yeah, I mean, is it for everyone? No, but it's helped me really in terms of brain function, brain fog, longevity, in terms of my day, production, focus, clarity, things of that nature.
yeah, I love fasting. I haven't fasted in probably like a year now, ever since I got pregnant, and now that I'm breastfeeding. They don't recommend it. I tried to do it when I was pregnant, and it's just like, no, you start to it's like your hormones are in a completely different place. Because before that, I've always did intermittent fasting. It just worked for me. I've same thing as you. Like I find that I feel way more alert and way more focused, and my concentration is better versus when I'm not fasting. And I think and I'm pretty sure I sleep better too when I fast. And same thing, like I drink coffee, so I don't know if that's considered a food, but I'll drink coffee during my fast time. I miss it. Can't wait to get back into it. So,
yeah, I wouldn't recommend it if you're pregnant.
yeah, don't do it, guys. If you're pregnant or you're breastfeeding, do not fast, especially because you're burning like 500 more calories when you're breastfeeding.
Yeah.
On top
And
of
for
that.
women too, when you're menstruating, as some people have different cycles. So again, always talk to a professional in this arena because I am not that. And I know that I'm not that. And, it could have the opposite effect if you're not checking your stats and your data on what's best for your body.
Yeah, totally. You have to know your body. So yeah, definitely make sure you check in. We talked a lot about like foods and the health benefits and like what it is that you're ingesting. What about your workout routines and like fitness? Let's talk about that because
Yeah.
you are a very active person. So I know you do yoga and you're also a martial artist. Let's touch on that. Like, what's your day-to-day like when you work out?
Yeah, I think it can be best described. Well, you know what? I'll go through my morning routine because I think
Yeah.
that's super important, and it encompasses fitness into that morning routine as well as just overall health benefits, right? So I'm a huge proponent of morning routines and habits and biohacking your morning. Shameless plug, my YouTube channel has videos on this that I've created, so head over to YouTube and check out my channel. But going through my morning routine, waking up, I really like to set up the day. So making my bed is actually so important. It's the first thing that I do. It's more of an internal dialogue in your mind that says, I'm organized, I got this day. If I don't accomplish anything else today, at least I made my bed, right? So that's like the one thing that I do right when I get up. I like to meditate first thing in the morning. So I will spend, however long it takes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, and I'm either sitting with a tall spine and or laying down, whatever works for me that morning. And I like to have a specific intention. And then I typically think of 3 things that I'm grateful for. So 3 for gratitude, and then 3 to thrive, 3 things that will help me thrive in my future. So really stepping into almost like a futuristic NLP, which I know you're really into, Svetlana. So really kind of stepping into my future, creating this really nice story for myself. And I'll typically do that internally, but sometimes I'll write it out. So sometimes I'll take out a journal and actually write out what I'm grateful for, but a lot of times I'm meditating on it, and I eyes closed, just me and my breath. Then I'm doing all the crazy shit that I love to talk about, which is my Wim Hof, which is either ice cold shower or cold plunge into an ice bath. So we can touch on that more if you want to. Go into yoga, swish back some greens, some wheatgrass typically, and then I'm going to yoga. I always have this mantra, green before brown. So I have to have a green drink before I drink coffee.
Yeah. Alkalize, baby.
Yes, alkalize before you acidify. And you know how hard that is for me because my fiance and I own a coffee company. So for us, like he makes coffee first thing in the morning. That's the first thing he consumes. And I'm like smelling the coffee and I'm like, no, drink your water, drink your green. Like you got this. So it's kind of like always a daily struggle for me not to just like get right up and drink coffee. So I'm doing that, doing yoga, and then I have my fitness routine. I'm either doing a HIIT workout, working out. I lift weights, and yeah, then I'm starting my day, like my professional day in terms of work, clients, and I always follow this swallow the frog mentality, where swallow the frog meaning getting your worst conversations or your worst or most challenging, most vulnerable conversations out of the day first thing in the morning, so that the rest of the day your work is happy-go-lucky and you don't have to worry about anything that's on your mind. So if you need to make a phone call or if you need to talk to somebody about XYZ and it might be a hard conversation or a crucial conversation, getting that down right away. So really that's my morning routine that sets me up for success, but that encompasses yoga, an hour of yoga, and that typically encompasses about 45 minutes to an hour of lifting weights.
Wow, I love that. Can you talk about what the Wim Hof method? Do you do ice cold plunges every day?
Yeah, so if I don't have access to a ice bath, I am taking an ice cold shower. And typically it's like a 2-minute ice cold shower. So it's not super long, but it's not short by any means. If you've done it before and you know that you have to stand in that shower for 2 minutes, it's intense, but I really, really love it, and just the benefits of it. And for me, I've had training with folks that have not only been trained by Wim Hof, but are very close with him. So I've been trained in Wim Hof by multiple people. Ely is one of them. Luke is one of them. Brandon, who came on our podcast, Brandon Powell, really close with Wim. He's one of the folks. And then Errol, who also came on our podcast. So I've had really great teachers there. And I would not be getting in an ice cold bath unless it did something for me. So I've felt better doing it. I feel more awake and alive. I feel like my immune system has just like skyrocketed. I don't get sick. My mental health has improved. My overall psychological well-being has improved, and stress and anxiety and panic has improved. And I am somebody who has suffered from panic attacks, anxiety attacks, and high stress environments. So for me, it's just increased my performance throughout the day, not only in fitness, but also with relieving stress. So that's been something that has really helped me gain more energy, and also helps me recover from my workouts. So it's really nice to kind of get that in.
Yeah. Wow. Every day, that's quite the commitment. I've done it a few
if I don't
times.
get it in the morning, it happens at night. So it's like I'm pretty strict with that one. I don't give my body a lot of grace with that one. That one's just like, shit, okay, you got to do it. You got to do it, and you just gradually make that shower.
I've done it in the shower. I haven't done an ice cold bath yet.
It's so good.
I'd like to try cryotherapy. Have you done cryotherapy?
Yeah, so I have done that before, and for some reason, I really like the ice bath. Number one, because it's financially something that you can do every day, and you can do at home instead of paying a lot of money for cryogenic therapy. But I also really enjoy like stepping into an ice cold tub. I don't know why. There's something about it that I'm like, yes, I know this is going to like improve my mind-body connection. I know this is going to improve my cold tolerance, but also help me throughout the day in terms of creativity and everything that it does for me. I really get excited doing it. It's a mixture of fear and excitement because I love it, but it's also very much a mind-body spiritual practice where you have to get into your breathing and really concentrate on your breath. A lot of people leave out the breathing part of it, but Wim Hof is really all about your breath and functions of focusing on your breath, focusing on breathing in deeply, letting it go. So a lot of people will maybe focus just on those ice cold showers and not necessarily focus on the breath. And I think that you're not really getting that true benefit of the Wim Hof method if you're just plunging into ice cold, right? You have to do the breathing. The breath work is essential to the method of what Wim Hof is practicing because it's simple, but I think a lot of people only see on the internet, hey, they're jumping into a cold therapy bath, but there's really this whole entire pillar of breathing behind it where we're always breathing, but we're unaware of our breath. So it kind of takes you back to heightening your oxygen levels and really truly treasuring those benefits of just breathing in and then releasing stress. And it almost mirrors something that might happen if you were tripping on ayahuasca, and I've never done that before personally, but I've heard that the Wim Hof method can bring you into a mind space that you've never been in before that people typically try to get through doing, drugs.
Yeah, totally. It's entering like a different field of consciousness. I've heard him talk about this. It's pretty spectacular what your body can, the things that your body can heal and endure. Like I mean, I know they've done tests on him where they've injected him with live viruses, and just by breath he was able to counteract the viruses in his body and heal right in front of their faces. Like you could see it on the screen. So it's really incredible, and it takes a lot of training and will, I believe, and really like that faith in yourself to keep going, because a lot of people will freak out like right away, like, oh my God, this is so cold, I can't breathe, or like, oh my God, there's this, the virus or whatever, blah, blah, like they let their mind take over. So it really is a mind body spiritual connection. And I know that I'm nowhere near there yet, even in my own life. Wim Hof is definitely like, he's definitely somebody that is making strides and like showing the world what's possible, again, by leading by example.
Yeah, and I also think too, I mean, Wim Hof is amazing. I love what his methodology has brought into my life, but at the same time, just getting a little bit more aware that other countries, the countries in the Czech Republic, Finland, Sweden, Denmark, these people are doing this every single day. There's no like Wim Hof method. Wim is from Poland, so I know that, it's a practice there as well. But going to the cold and taking cold plunges or cold baths and then going into a really hot sauna is a part of their culture and a part of their society. And I think that it's really just come over to America, and we're almost, Wim Hof has made almost like a product out of it, which is cool. I love what he's doing, and I think that he's doing it for the right reasons. I don't think he's like trying to scam anyone, but I love that other countries have been doing this for years and years and years. It's embedded into their cultural beliefs. It's embedded into their religious beliefs, their society in general, their communities. And it's something that's just coming over to America, and we're like, oh my God, this is so cool. And it's like, no, this is something that people have been doing in other countries for generations. And look at their health stats, look at things that it's helped with data over years and years and years. Whereas, there might be some non-believers here in the US, but I think it's going to spread quickly, because not only does it benefit stress relief and making sure that you're at your peak recovery for burnout and anti-inflammation, but it's also actually preventing things like arthritis or relief of arthritis. It helps people with MS, which I know plagues a lot of people. It helps people with Lyme disease syndrome, which in my area of Massachusetts where I live, we have a really high count of Lyme disease and ticks, and it can be used to help relieve some of those symptoms. PTSD is another really huge one, asthma, migraine relief. There's so many things in terms of autoimmune diseases that you can have relief from by using this method. So I think really it's something that if people want to look into it and try it, I think it's really beneficial.
Yeah, wow, definitely. I completely agree. You touched on a lot of your routines. Is there anything else that is something that you practice that helps you like be a better person and enter a state of peak performance, relaxation, just concentrated and focused? Any other methods or practices that you have that you think is really important to share with our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it earlier. I'm really into yoga. I love taking yoga. I love practicing yoga, but I also love sharing yoga. I'm a yoga teacher as well, so it's really important for me to share and contribute, and that's really where like I get super jazzed up. And I'm also a martial artist, so I've been doing martial arts since I was in second grade. And we talked to Jay about this on his episode as well, because he's into jiu-jitsu and he's been doing it for quite some time. But it really is meditation when you're doing martial arts. And for me, the martial arts that I have been doing forever is Tang Soo Do. And I'm a 3rd degree black belt in Tang Soo Do. And really Tang Soo Do focuses on forms, and it focuses on concentration, authenticity, transparency, integrity, respect. And a lot of those things I've brought into my more modern meditation practice, where I'm taking a yoga class, but I'm coming into that same mindset that martial arts has given me almost my whole life. So that's been something that I wanted to at least touch on or mention. And then we can dive into that deeper if you want to. But in addition to that, I wanted to mention also, people focus on morning routines a lot, but I also think my nightly routine is just as important. Getting into a ritual, biohacking your night routine will set you up for a better sleep. And I think, not only just like brushing your teeth, but getting your alarms ready to go, making sure your room is completely dark. making sure you're not staring into a screen at night, or maybe you're using your blue light glasses, or whatever works for you. Reading, whatever you're doing at night, like that nightly routine is super important. And so I think that sometimes we focus on morning routine so much that we don't give nightly routines the attention that they need. So I also wanted to mention to people that I think it's really important that you have a nightly biohacking routine as well.
Yeah, definitely. It sets you up for success too. And like one of the things that I like to do sometimes is just write out anything that's on my mind on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
To just get it out. And that way it's like I will instantly fall asleep, or I just sleep so much deeper and better. Or visualizing what it is that I am working towards or aspire to be. Like I visualize myself being that person, and it's crazy, like the energy that puts out and what comes into my life just when I take a few minutes to do that, or reading. And I love that you said dimming the lights, because that's huge. Just making your space into a sanctuary, I think, is like really important, and it really sets you up.
Yeah, I love that you use the word sanctuary just now. That's exactly what it needs to be. As so many people are just like, I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to watch like 7 rounds of this episode of whatever, and then I'm just going to fucking fall asleep. And it's like, no, like it is your sanctuary, especially, as women, as we're getting older, it really helps with anti-aging and other things that, we want to focus on and to live a peak performance. If that's your goal, maybe whatever, maybe you don't want to, and maybe Netflix is cool for you, but if you're looking to optimize your health and optimize your routines and biohack into a really nice peak state, then I think that your nightly routine is super important. And you mentioned journaling too, and writing things down. I love that. I mean, a lot of times people are, all the rage now is like morning pages, right? Where you're just sitting and writing 3 pages of whatever comes to your mind. And I've tried that before too in the morning. A lot of times I'm meditating and thinking on it, but typically I'm journaling at night or writing out like poems or just sentences, things that come to mind. So I love that you mentioned that too, because just getting it out, getting the thoughts out onto paper, you never know what could come up.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. Now I have a whiteboard.
Oh yeah. Vision board.
Whiteboards.
Yes.
Yes, we've been writing on those every night. So are there any books or mentors that you recommend for our audience to look into that you love and adore? And you mentioned a few. You mentioned, I don't want to butcher his name, so if you can repeat the doctor's name, about the one that talks about the data-driven details regarding just eating better. Campbell was his last name? Was that it?
Yeah, so the China study by Dr. Colin Campbell and Whole, W-H-O-L-E. So he was a part of both of those books, and those are 2 really great books if you're looking for more data-driven knowledge behind whole food, plant-based diets and healthy lifestyles. Those are like the 2 that I could recommend. I mean, there's tons of cookbooks that I would recommend. I think the China Study cookbook is really great if you're first getting started. Vegan Bowls for Vegan Souls. I know that they have like Vegan Bowls or Vegan Souls, I think is the name of it, but they have like a series of books. And then, gosh, what other cookbooks do I use? Thug Kitchen is great. I love their humor combined with really nice recipes. So if you're planning on going whole foods plant-based, like you've got support. There's people online that have posted recipes. Don't just try to like eat a raw piece of broccoli and think that that's good. Like that's great. Yeah, raw is amazing. But if you want to kind of ease into it, maybe try some of these different recipes, and it really helps you kind of get a little bit more into cooking for your body and finding out what sits well with you and what doesn't. And, again, start somewhere. For me, I'm at the extreme where now it's like I'm not eating anything that comes out of a can. And a lot of vegans will get canned beans or canned pinto or black beans or garbanzo beans. But, now knowing information, those have BPAs and things in them. So I'm not even doing that. So for me, I'm almost like at this extreme level where I'm, soaking all of my beans, almost eating raw as much as I possibly can, which is not always easy because my partner was actually not vegan, completely the opposite, total carnivore until a month ago. So
James is now vegan?
Yeah, he just converted over. He's really excited. it's funny because, again, I don't pressure people, never pressured him. I almost cooked like 2 separate meals for us, and same for him. Like when he was cooking, he would cook vegan for me, and he would throw cheese and butter and all that shit into his meal, but not for mine. And so, and vice versa. We were just like pleasers. Like we like to make each other happy, and we love cooking, both of us. And
wait, so you would cook meat for him?
Yes and no. That's it. Depending.
Ooh, how was that?
Most of the time he would cook the meat. It goes against my values, so not my favorite thing, but
yeah, but it made him happy.
Yeah, it really wasn't meat that I was cooking for him too much. It was mostly like utilizing products that were not vegan, so that it's not like I was like going and buying steak tips or anything at the store. Yeah. He knows that I wouldn't even feel comfortable doing that. So he wasn't really all about that. Like if we went out to eat at a restaurant, he would order meat because he knew that he was going to get something that was cooked the way he would be. But he just made the switch to veganism. And it's so funny because he was really against it for a long time, but he just watched Forks Over Knives like last month. And he said that completely changed his mind. And I'm like, that documentary's been out for a couple years now.
It takes time. Sometimes it just clicks for people. That's amazing though.
It's so funny because I was out of town that weekend for a work conference. I was at this like peak performance summit. And so I wasn't home that weekend. And like when I'm not home, he like randomly watches this like vegan documentary. And then all of a sudden when I get back, he's like, yeah, I'm not eating meat anymore. Like no dairy, no. And I'm like, oh my God, you're hilarious. But yeah, we're a vegan family now.
That's awesome. So yay. That's awesome.
It's amazing. We were talking about books though.
I was going to say, any other books that you want to recommend?
Yeah. So I think in terms of living a peak performance lifestyle, what really changed for me was, of course, the Tony Robbins conference. So I would say if you're looking to change your whole entire life, try heading to Unleash the Power Within or, Date with Destiny or any of his other conferences that he throws. But in terms of books, I would say Tim Ferriss's books have been really helpful for me in terms of taking away the bits and pieces that work for me. Tools of Titans is the first one that I read. And then he came out with Tribe of Mentors. Both amazing books. And then I read The 4-Hour Workweek. So that's been really beneficial in terms of my professional life and juggling all these different things because as you know, Svetlana, I don't know if our listeners know, but I have so many different businesses, like running a coffee company. I'm running our podcast with you, as a co-host. I have my own business. So a lot of things are happening at the same time. So Tim Ferriss has really helped me with that 4-Hour Workweek. That's been very beneficial.
Yeah, definitely. So, you mentioned a lot about like the things that you do for your health and movement and working out and things like that. What about meditation? Because I know that you're a yoga instructor, and you're being a martial artist as well. I feel like a lot of things that you practice are so meditative, but like, is there anything specific that you practice on an internal side within your mindset, within your internal frame of being?
Yeah, I love that question. And, in addition to kind of my morning routine stuff, which is more about like gratitude and thriving and future, I highly value and tremendously look forward to meditating every single day. And that can be post-practice for yoga. Typically, that's when I meditate because my mind is so clear and I've gone through all of this breath work. For me, it's all about the loving kindness meditation, which is a type of meditation where you're just being kind to yourself, being kind to other people, thinking about, your body, thinking about how your mind can connect to your body, doing a body scan. So it's really number one about the breath awareness within your meditation. So knowing where your breath is coming from, knowing how you're breathing, and then taking that breath, connecting it to your mind, saying things that are empowering to yourself, the loving kindness meditation, and then taking it back to your body, doing a body scan, and really thinking about that mind, body, spirituality connection. And that's something that people can do at home. So I think it's a really cool hack for people that are struggling internally with maybe A-type personalities or on the go or stress or panic, trying to meditate. And if that means using some of the apps that are out there like Calm, or if that means going to a recording, there's so many resources out there, not only like Spotify, iTunes, but there's resources on YouTube. You can find meditations and you can find things that will guide you through. One of the first ones I used, Svetlana, I know I keep bringing it back to like how we met, but it's so serendipitous how you and I have connected and how everything just kind of falls into place. But bringing it back to Tony Robbins, that conference, that's when I started meditating. And it's because he did that amazing meditation at the end of UPW. It was like, I believe it was the end of the first
It was
day.
the priming exercise. It was the breath work mixed with 3 things that you're grateful for and going back into that moment, and then 3 things that you want to improve, and it was a few other things. And he did this whole blue light visual also, which is very pranic healing based, and it's amazing. Sometimes I still use that one too. It's so powerful. I still cry when I do it.
Me too. And you know what? It's on YouTube. It's free. And it's like 15 minutes. It's like, whoa, okay. You can just sit or lie and get in a comfortable position and close your eyes and turn that on. And his voice to me is really soothing. So I like his voice. I know some people might not feel the same, but I really like his like powerful, soothing, like raspy voice that just gets me. So that was the first time I really started to meditate. And, the biggest thing is, am I good at meditation? No. Do I claim to be an expert? No. But do I do it every day? Absolutely. And I found it to be more and more and more beneficial every single day. It's helped me in terms of my emotional fitness, in terms of my response time to triggers. And I've never heard anyone say that they regret meditating. I've never heard anyone say, I've had so many negative side effects from, this meditation here. I've just never heard it. I mean, maybe it's out there. Maybe people, maybe it's something that's out there, but
That's great.
I don't know. I think
that's a good one. I've never heard anybody give me negative side effects from meditating.
Well, I mean, please, I'm sure somebody's going to write into us, right? But I've never heard of it. And sometimes people think meditation has to be like complete silence, but no, I think you can put music on, you can have a guided meditation, whatever works for you is
I do walking meditation sometimes.
Yeah, walking meditation, sometimes just being on a treadmill for people, or working out, or Stairmaster, whatever pick your poison, right? But sometimes that is meditative for people.
Pick your poison.
Pick your poison, man. But yeah, it's just controlling your mind, mindfulness, getting through those thoughts, because not only are we marking things as thoughts and then letting them drift away, letting them pass, but we're also controlling our breathing. And again, so many benefits to that. And I do want to add too, I just did a master meditation course, class, whatever you want to call it, with this lovely woman named Bhavani from the Kripalu Center in Massachusetts. And she really got me into the loving kindness meditation and kind and gentle yoga, which I wasn't originally into because of just the person that I am, super active. I was always doing power yoga, vinyasa, yes, fire yoga, fire, fire, fire. And more recently, the past year and a half, I would say, I got into more of that mindful, loving self meditation. And it's really kind of opened me up to a different type of practice. So now I can kind of marry those both and use that as a tool in my toolkit to say, hey, I need vinyasa, I need power yoga today, I need sculpt, I need something with weights, or I need to do some myofascial release and chill out and do a loving kindness meditation. So I think it's just about, having the tools in your toolkit to take them out and say, hey, this is what I need today.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for asking that question. So one of the books, and we've mentioned this multiple times on our podcast, so I just want to make sure it's thrown out there again and ingrained in people to go check it out. But this book changed my life. It's called The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday. And I know Tim Ferriss talks about stoicism a lot, and we've talked about it on our podcast, but that's one of the books that completely changed my life, because you can basically read a different passage for every single day. So it's really nice because you can kind of wake up in the morning, and that can be almost like your intention for your meditation. You can read that and say, oh, okay, that's my intention for today. And it's dated, and it takes you through every single day, 365 days of the year. So it's really kind of a cool tip or hack if you're one of those people that's like, oh, I can't make up my own intention. Like, oh, what am I going to think about today? It's like, okay, you can read your daily stoic, and then you have that in your practice for the day. And I bring that into like yoga classes and stuff too. So that's been like a really nice biohacking tool to pick intentions for the day. There's a book called The Art of Happiness, which is the Dalai Lama. So that one I've gifted to people before. It's been super useful in my life, but also a book that I've gifted to other people. The Alchemist is another one that you and I have chatted about before, but really, again, mindfulness, getting into your emotional fitness, unmarrying these stories that we're telling ourselves about what should be or what we should be or who we should be, and really like taking that journey through life. So that's another book that I wanted to throw out there for people that are working on mindfulness or trying to get emotionally fit to live a peak performance life.
Those are all really amazing books.
Wait, one more too. And I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but another book that I've most gifted to other people is Man's Search for Meaning, which is all about Viktor Frankl's time in the Holocaust. And it's all about mindset, and it's all about pushing through challenging situations and not having a victim mentality. That is a book that I've most gifted to people, and actually gifted to my fiance when he was going through a challenging time, actually during a time that we weren't even together. I knew he was going through this like tough internal struggle, and I gifted him that book. I sent it to him in the mail, and it's just something that's changed not only my life, but it's changed other people's lives too. And I've gotten really amazing feedback just from anyone that I've given that book to. So that's another one I wanted to mention.
Thank you. Yeah, those are all really great books, and I'm sure our listeners will really enjoy at least one of those books.
Right?
Pick up at least one, right?
So many.
Yeah.
Pick
one. Just start with one.
You don't need to read them all overnight, especially Tim Ferriss's books. They're like,
yeah, they're really fast.
Long.
You can skim through them too. I skimmed through his books.
You can, yeah. You don't have to start at the beginning of those books.
No, you don't. Especially the Tool of Titans. I mean, it's like a recipe book, which is great. So yeah, wow, thanks a lot. I really enjoyed our talk today. I feel like I'm always learning something new every time we chat and we interview each other. It definitely opens up my field of consciousness to something new and different. So I'm grateful for that. And thanks so much for sharing and being vulnerable with us and sharing a piece of yourself with me and with our audience.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for all of the kind words in the interview. And if anyone has any questions about anything that we chatted about, whether that's whole food, plant-based lifestyle, intermittent fasting, Wim Hof, anything that you guys want to chat about, feel free to shoot me a message. Our Instagram is at Bold and Vulnerable Podcast. So you can find us on there, and you can reach out to me there, or you can reach out to me on my personal Instagram at bold_LLC. And I am happy to answer anyone's DMs. Thank you for listening to the Bold and Vulnerable Podcast. For more information on today's speaker, please visit us at boldandvulnerablepodcast.com.
And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Let's keep spreading the love by being bold and vulnerable. Thank you. We love you.